High-level leaks from Whitehall confirmed that Prince William and Princess Anne exercised an unprecedented joint constitutional veto in closed-door meetings, completely rewriting the royal family's internal power map. As a direct consequence of this resolute resistance, Queen Camilla was forced to humiliatingly withdraw a months-long, sensitive proposal aimed at placing her civilian son, Tom Parker Bowles, into official state structures. Before the dust in the palace could settle, a brilliant counterattack was officially announced, revealing the immediate and widely publicized appointments of Zara and Mike Tindall to top national sporting roles, setting a whole new course for the modern crown. To fully grasp the magnitude of this confrontation, one must look at the intense scarcity mindset currently gripping the inner walls of Buckingham Palace. The working core of the royal family has shrunk to an historically precarious level, creating a vacuum of authority and visibility that left the institution vulnerable to exploitation. With Prince Harry isolated across the Atlantic in California, Prince Andrew permanently cast out of public life due to cascading personal scandals, King Charles III managing a highly restrictive public schedule amidst his ongoing cancer treatments, and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, balancing her vital recovery with limited state appearances, the daily operational capacity of the monarchy has faced an unprecedented crisis. The sheer volume of national patronages, state banquets, and community engagements was threatening to crush the few remaining active royals. Queen Camilla looked at this operational deficit and saw a golden, tactical opportunity to elevate her own lineage. For months, she quietly advanced a sophisticated narrative within the palace, arguing that a modern, blended monarchy required modern, pragmatic solutions. Her ultimate goal was to secure an official royal patronage for her 50-year-old son, Tom Parker Bowles. As an accomplished food writer, media personality, and culinary critic, Tom was presented by his mother as the perfect, media-trained plug-and-play solution to the royal family's chronic labor shortage. Camilla framed the move as a selfless act of maternal support, a way to lift the heavy administrative burden from the shoulders of a strained sovereign and protect the health of the king. To casual observers, the logic seemed almost reasonable, but to the constitutional purists guarding the crown, it was a dangerous Trojan horse. The moment this stealth campaign reached the desk of Prince William and Princess Anne, the soft diplomatic maneuvering stopped, and an iron wall of institutional resistance was erected. The Prince of Wales and the Princess Royal did not view this as a harmless logistical fix. They recognized it as a fundamental assault on the constitutional boundaries that keep the monarchy legitimate in the eyes of the British public. A royal patronage is never a mere vanity title or a celebrity endorsement. When a member of the House of Windsor attaches their name to a charity, a medical foundation, or a military regiment, they are deploying the sovereign prestige of the crown to validate that institution. This system retains its immense value precisely because the public understands that a royal patron is a constitutional actor who has surrendered their private life to serve the state. Tom Parker Bowles, despite his high society connections, is a private citizen completely detached from the sovereign contract. William and Anne stood completely united on a single, unshakable principle. Official representation of the crown is an exclusive privilege reserved strictly for the sovereign, his direct heirs, and those bound by a lifelong constitutional oath to the nation. Introducing a non-bloodline, extended family member into the machinery of state would signal that royal status is no longer a matter of historical inheritance and constitutional law, but rather a prize subject to the shifting whims of marital favoritism. The political risks of Camilla's plan were catastrophic. If the son of a queen consort could be quietly slipped into state duties today, nothing would prevent the relatives of future monarchs from demanding similar access to institutional prestige tomorrow. It would open a floodgate of nepotism allegations, destroying the carefully curated image of a merit-based, slimmed-down monarchy and providing endless ammunition to anti-monarchy organizations waiting to tear the institution down. Instead of engaging in an emotional family argument that could alienate King Charles, William and Anne deployed a masterstroke of bureaucratic warfare. They turned the palace's own rigid mechanisms against the queen consort by demanding a transparent, comprehensive audit of the entire vetting process. They openly questioned whether the standard, rigorous constitutional checks and balances carried out by senior royal committees were being intentionally bypassed or rushed under the convenient guise of the current staffing crisis. By shifting their attack from Tom as an individual to the sanctity of the royal appointment process itself, they exposed a critical vulnerability. The proposal completely lacked the necessary deep institutional consensus required for a decision of this magnitude. The traditional safeguards designed to prevent favoritism had not been respected. The moment William and Anne demanded absolute transparency, the legal and procedural ground completely dissolved beneath Camilla's feet. Realizing that any further attempt to push her son forward would result in a highly public, formal constitutional dispute before the Privy Council, the Queen Consort was forced to completely concede. She abruptly withdrew the proposal, leaving her long-term strategy to elevate her civilian family permanently dismantled and cementing a definitive truth. The ultimate authority over the destiny of the Windsor line remains securely in the hands of Prince William and Princess Anne. The sudden collapse of Queen Camilla's hidden agenda did not just signify the end of a family dispute. It marked a definitive turning point in how palace administrative power is wielded. The strategic counterstrike orchestrated by Prince William and Princess Anne was so swift and structurally absolute that it left the Queen Consort's faction with no room for recovery. For months, the narrative coming from Camilla's allies emphasized that the royal family was facing an unsustainable crisis of capacity. They argued that the monarchy could not survive its current operational demands without a major influx of outside help. By threatening to expose the lack of proper institutional vetting for Tom Parker Bowles, William and Anne did not just block an undesirable candidate, they fundamentally discredited the entire argument of desperate necessity that Camilla had built her strategy upon. To achieve this total containment, William and Anne knew they had to provide a viable solution to the very real problem of an overworked sovereign. They could not simply say no to the Queen Consort and leave the king's schedule empty, as that would make them look obstructionist and uncaring during a genuine national crisis. Instead, they engineered an alternative staffing model that completely neutralized Camilla's primary justification. They looked inside the existing family structure to find highly respected individuals who possessed perfect constitutional legitimacy, but had previously been allowed to live independent, private careers. This led directly to the creation of the Associate Royals Framework, a brilliant operational blueprint designed to plug the gaps in the royal calendar without costing the British taxpayer a single penny or introducing non-bloodline complications. The masterstroke of this new strategy was the immediate, strategic deployment of Zara and Mike Tindall. By placing this high-profile, immensely popular couple at the center of the monarchy's domestic outreach, William and Anne demonstrated a profound understanding of modern public relations and constitutional boundaries. Zara Tindall, as the eldest granddaughter of Queen Elizabeth II, carries the undeniable authority of the royal bloodline. Mike Tindall, as a legendary former captain of the England rugby team, possesses an organic, self-made public standing that commands immense respect across all sections of British society. Together, they offered a combination of historical prestige and contemporary relevance that a civilian author like Tom Parker Bowles could never replicate. The strategic divergence between these two approaches was stark. Camilla's plan required the dangerous bending of constitutional rules, the blurring of bloodlines, and the creation of a precedent that could plague the monarchy for generations. William's alternative cost the public nothing, required no rule bending, and was backed by the absolute legitimacy of direct descent. It was a flawless tactical move that completely dissolved the idea that the monarchy had no choice but to rely on non-bloodline stepchildren to survive. By replacing a highly controversial proposal with a universally celebrated family deployment, William and Anne effectively proved that they understood how to manage the machinery of the crown far better than the Queen Consort ever could, keeping the keys to the kingdom exactly where they belong. The brilliant orchestration of the new Associate Royals Framework achieved its ultimate triumph through the explicit, formal appointments of Zara and Mike Tindall to premier national sporting institutions. This calculated move by King Charles III and Prince William was a masterstroke of institutional engineering, carefully designed to breathe vibrant and modern life into the monarchy while strictly adhering to the unyielding rules of royal succession. By selecting a couple who already occupied an exalted place in the hearts of the British public, the palace high command managed to solve an operational crisis while simultaneously strengthening the emotional connection between the crown and the contemporary populace. The strategic deployment of the Tindalls shattered the narrative of a decaying, understaffed institution and replaced it with a vision of a dynamic, merit-based family team. At the very core of this strategy was a profound recognition of the couple's genuine, world-class sporting credentials. Zara Tindall is not merely a prominent face in the royal family tree. She is an elite equestrian athlete who achieved the pinnacle of her sport by winning a silver medal at the London 2012 Olympic Games. Her deep, lifetime immersion in the world of horse racing and breeding gives her an authentic authority that cannot be manufactured by public relations courtiers. On the other side of the partnership, Mike Tindall stands as an authentic legend of British sport, a former captain of the national rugby team who led his country through grueling international campaigns and lifted the World Cup in 2003. This self-made status means that Mike possesses a raw, organic respect among working-class and mainstream audiences that no inherited aristocratic title could ever confer. Recognizing these formidable assets, King Charles III officially designated Zara and Mike Tindall as the primary royal patrons and representatives for the nation's most prestigious sporting bodies. This sweeping mandate handed them formal oversight of premier events in the British calendar, including the historic royal race meetings at Ascot, the premier national rugby associations, and a wide array of youth sports development charities across the United Kingdom. This was a flawless, functional match. The Tindalls were not being shoehorned into stuffy, administrative state roles that felt artificial. Instead, they were being sent into environments where they were already respected experts, allowing them to engage with athletes, executives, and fans with an effortless, natural confidence that electrified the media. The double benefit this provided to the Windsor dynasty was absolute. Unlike the highly controversial proposal to elevate Tom Parker Bowles, which would have required rewriting centuries of constitutional protocol to grant a civilian stepchild state authority, the deployment of Zara and Mike was completely bulletproof. Zara carried the ultimate legitimacy of the royal bloodline as the daughter of the Princess Royal, satisfying the strict legal demands of the traditionalists. Simultaneously, her husband brought an accessible, down-to-earth masculinity and media savvy that softened the rigid image of the court. They possessed an inherent comfort in front of high-definition cameras, an established global fan base, and a refreshing, practical approach to public life that resonated deeply with a modern public weary of distant elites. The overwhelming wave of support that flooded in from the British media, the political establishment, and the general public completely vindicated William's long-term strategy. National newspapers and digital commentators praised the appointments as a brilliant utilization of real talent, noting that the Tindalls brought a level of energy and star power that the monarchy desperately needed. Charities and sporting boards expressed absolute delight at the prospect of working with individuals who truly understood their challenges and goals. Most importantly, this massive public success officially rendered Queen Camilla's entire political argument completely redundant. The persistent claim that the palace was facing a desperate shortage of personnel that could only be solved by introducing Tom Parker Bowles vanished into thin air. Prince William had effectively demonstrated that by looking inward and empowering the true bloodline, the monarchy could field a world-class team capable of fulfilling every national duty with style, dignity, and absolute constitutional purity. The operational mechanics of the Associate Royals framework were carefully structured to ensure that this new deployment of talent would remain entirely separate from the traditional, taxpayer-funded working core of the monarchy. Prince William and Princess Anne were acutely aware that in an era of intense economic scrutiny, any expansion of the royal circle that increased the financial burden on the British public would be met with swift political backlash. To prevent this, they established a set of revolutionary operational guidelines that completely altered how non-titular family members interact with state duties. Under this new model, Peter Phillips, Harriet Spurling, and the Tindalls operate under strict constitutional boundaries, ensuring their public service is driven entirely by institutional loyalty rather than financial gain or personal promotion. The most critical element of this strategy is that these designated individuals do not receive a single penny from the sovereign grant or any other form of public funding. Their work is performed on a purely voluntary, pro bono basis, meaning that the British taxpayer incurs absolutely zero cost for their increased public presence. Furthermore, they do not receive new aristocratic titles or elevated constitutional status, which completely shields them from the political controversies that typically accompany the creation of new working royals. They do not maintain official state offices at the expense of the public. Instead, their schedules and logistical arrangements are managed via a tightly controlled extension of Prince William's personal communications team. To maintain absolute message control and preserve the prestige of the crown, William instituted a strict pre-approval process for every public appearance, official statement, or charitable endorsement undertaken by the associate royals. This mechanism ensures that their activities remain in perfect alignment with the core priorities of the sovereign and the direct line of succession. It also creates an impenetrable wall between their voluntary public service and their private commercial careers. When Peter Phillips or the Tindalls operate in their capacity as private corporate executives or brand ambassadors, they are legally and institutionally forbidden from utilizing any official royal imagery, ciphers, or state seals. When they step forward to represent a royal patronage, they do so strictly as family volunteers, keeping their public appearances regulated to maintain the high value of the royal endorsement. The tactical brilliance of this internal restructuring became undeniable when contrasted with the plan put forward by Queen Camilla. The Queen Consort's proposal to elevate Tom Parker Bowles would have required a dangerous manipulation of constitutional tradition, introducing a civilian stepchild into a system that relies entirely on bloodline legitimacy to retain its legal authority. Camilla's strategy would have created a highly destabilizing precedent, suggesting that access to the prestige of the crown could be bartered through marital influence rather than historical inheritance. William's alternative completely bypassed these risks by utilizing individuals who already possessed undeniable genealogical right, requiring no alteration of the rules and demanding no public funds. This total neutralization of Camilla's argument left her faction completely isolated within the palace infrastructure. For months, her inner circle had maintained that the severe shortage of active royals was creating an administrative crisis that could only be solved by expanding the circle to include her civilian son. Prince William's counter-strategy effectively dismantled this position by presenting two highly capable, deeply respected bloodline relatives who were ready to deploy immediately at no cost to the state. The argument of desperate necessity was exposed as a mere cover for family advancement. Faced with a flawless alternative that satisfied the traditionalists, protected the treasury, and delighted the public, the push to elevate Tom Parker Bowles collapsed under its own weight, leaving Prince William and Princess Anne in total control of the monarchy's domestic strategy. The definitive collapse of Queen Camilla's hidden agenda reverberated through the private quarters of Windsor and Buckingham Palace, signaling a massive reassertion of the traditional hierarchy. Faced with the unyielding, united front of Prince William and Princess Anne, the Queen Consort was forced to recognize that her strategic maneuver had reached a total dead end. The introduction of the Associate Royals framework had completely destroyed her primary political argument, proving that the monarchy could resolve its staffing shortages by utilizing its own authentic bloodline rather than relying on civilian stepchildren. Camilla understood that any further attempt to push Tom Parker Bowles into an official role would trigger a formal, highly public constitutional dispute within the royal councils, an outcome that would severely damage the king's reign during an already delicate period. Choosing to protect her position, she quietly and completely withdrew the proposal, permanently ending her campaign to secure an official state role for her son. King Charles III reportedly viewed this resolution with a sense of profound relief and quiet satisfaction. Throughout his historic reign, the king has faced the incredibly complex task of balancing the emotional dynamics of his blended family with the rigid, unyielding demands of his sovereign position. The clever counter-strategy engineered by his sister and his eldest son provided him with a perfect constitutional exit from a deeply uncomfortable domestic situation. It allowed the king to avoid a direct, painful confrontation with his wife, while ensuring that the ancient boundaries of the crown remained completely intact. Charles was particularly pleased by the deep integration of Peter Phillips, Harriet Spurling, and the Tindalls into the family's voluntary support network, viewing their selfless commitment as a powerful symbol of generational solidarity and loyalty to the direct line of succession. The Princess of Wales was also said to be absolutely delighted by the outcome of this palace struggle. As Catherine carefully manages her delicate journey toward full health, the intense pressure to maintain her groundbreaking public work has been a source of constant concern for the palace. Harriet Spurling's immediate, enthusiastic willingness to volunteer her extensive clinical expertise to the Royal Foundation Center for Early Childhood provided a magnificent solution to a critical vacancy. Harriet's seamless support allowed these vital national health and psychological campaigns to maintain their immense public momentum without placing an unsustainable physical burden on the recovering princess. This displays the true value of the Associate Royals model, showing it to be an adaptable, highly professional shield designed to protect the core members of the monarchy during times of crisis. Ultimately, this intense internal conflict provides a fascinating insight into the shifting dynamics of power within the modern British state. The rejection of the Parker Bowles proposal was never about personal malice or petty family rivalries. It was a necessary, cold-eyed defense of institutional integrity. It proved that despite the shifting trends of modern society, the British crown remains anchored to the absolute principles of bloodline legitimacy, constitutional accountability, and selfless public service. By standing firm against the blurring of family lines, Prince William and Princess Anne secured a monumental victory for the future of the house, ensuring that the heavy weight of the crown remains exclusively in the hands of those born to bear it. The long-term implications of this brief yet intense constitutional battle have effectively established a new administrative doctrine that will govern the House of Windsor for decades to come. By drawing a sharp, permanent line between the sovereign's working bloodline and the civilian relatives of a queen consort, Prince William and Princess Anne have successfully insulated the crown from the modern perils of reputational dilution. The public message sent by this decisive victory is unmistakable. The extraordinary privileges, historic titles, and immense symbolic power of the British monarchy cannot be bartered, shared, or extended through marriage alone. It remains a sacred trust bound strictly by genetic inheritance and a lifelong constitutional contract with the people of the United Kingdom, ensuring that the institution maintains its unique, elevated status above the changing trends of contemporary high society. For Prince William, this entire episode has served as a powerful demonstration of his emerging leadership and his complete readiness to assume the ultimate responsibilities of the state. As King Charles III continues to navigate his complex medical treatments, William has increasingly stepped forward to manage the strategic direction of the family business. His handling of the Queen's proposal showed a remarkable combination of political maturity and operational ruthlessness. Rather than engaging in public media wars or creating a dramatic domestic rift that would weaken his father's position, William utilized the rigid administrative protocols of the palace to quietly disassemble the threat. He proved that he possesses the tactical vision required to defend the monarchy's core principles while remaining flexible enough to adapt its day-to-day operations to the demands of the modern world. Furthermore, the overwhelming public and media endorsement of the Associate Royals framework has completely validated William's long-held vision of a streamlined, highly professionalized monarchy. For years, commentators have debated whether a smaller royal family could effectively maintain its massive network of national patronages and public engagements. The immediate, spectacular success of Zara and Mike Tindall in their newly assigned roles has provided a definitive answer to that question. By deploying individuals who possess genuine, world-class professional credentials and a natural, accessible charm, the palace has managed to increase its public impact while decreasing its institutional footprint. The Tindalls have shown that modern royal duty does not require archaic titles or vast taxpayer funding to be effective. It requires authenticity, dedication, and a real connection to the everyday passions of the British public. As the palace enters a new chapter of stability, the quiet consensus among senior courtiers and constitutional experts is that the kingdom's future is more secure now than it has been in years. The immediate crisis of a hollowed-out institution has been solved without expanding the royal grant, without risking political controversy, and without opening the doors to nepotism. Princess Anne's decades of unwavering service and adherence to protocol have found a perfect continuation in the forward-thinking strategy of her nephew, Prince William. Together, they have sent a clear message to any who might wish to alter the traditional foundations of the monarchy from within. The machinery of the crown remains completely independent of personal influence, and the ultimate authority over its destiny rests securely in the hands of those who are born to guard the realm. The enduring traditions of the British state continue to survive precisely because they are guarded by individuals who view the monarchy not as a source of personal advancement, but as a lifetime duty to the nation. From the quiet administrative offices of Buckingham Palace to the packed sporting arenas of the United Kingdom, the new map of royal representation is operating with total precision, proving that the ancient house still possesses the unique power to unite the public and preserve its constitutional purity across generations.